Hi, Ruby. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to just tell the audience about the topic you're talking about and give them a brief introduction about you. You can get your screen share started.
Okay.
Okay, so we have with us Ruby. Ruby is going to be talking about challenges in enrolling women to become hackers. A little bit about Ruby. Ruby is the country manager for Trainocate in Malaysia, an authorized training center for global tech leaders such as Alibaba Cloud, AWS, Cisco, IBM, Google Cloud, Microsoft, NetApp, Nutanix, Red Hat, and VMware. She has 2 decades of experience in customer service and business development with renowned IT players like Mesiniaga, IBM, Oracle, and Global Knowledge. Ruby has established Trainocate as a formidable training provider in Malaysia, serving an array of corporates. To name a few: AIG, AirAsia, CIMB, Dell, DHL, Maybank, Telekom Malaysia, and a few more. Ruby is passionate about digital upskilling in the IR 4.0 era and an advocate of women in tech, actively elevating IT talents to leadership roles through fitting certifications. So with that, I'm going to hand the stage over to Ruby. Ruby, over to you.
Thank you, Aditya, for the kind introduction. In brief, I am an experienced IT education and training, and I hope that with the 20 years of exposure that I've had in the industry, I would be able to provide some enlightenment to the topic today, which is challenges in enrolling women to become ethical hackers. So I would like to begin by stating that we live in exponential times where IT trends such as cloud computing, IoT, AI, and automation have become a norm at the workplace and even in our personal lives. A surge in the usage of social media wearables for health and fitness, wireless devices for security and tracking, as well as e-wallets are just the beginning, to name a few. So to the tech-savvy consumer, these are exciting times, and to the tech laggards, this experience may be daunting. But what are the sentiments of IT practitioners on this tech boom? From the speakers that I've heard today, I can assure you there is great concern, especially in this part of the world. So this, according to a report by A.T. Kearney, ASEAN countries are being used as launchpads for cyber attacks, either as vulnerable hotbeds for unsecured infrastructure where numerous computers can be infected in large-scale attacks, or even as centers for a single point of attack to gain access to the hub's global connection. In addition, the report also revealed that Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam are global operational bases for major blocked suspicious web attack activities, up to 3.5 times the standard ratio, making them hubs for hackers to launch malware attacks. Hence, it's not a surprise that the World Economic Forum in 2019 Global Risk Report ranked cybersecurity attacks and data breaches as the 4th and 5th most serious risks facing the world today. It is the 2nd year in a row in which these threats have been present in the top 5 list of risks. So with this, despite this awareness, ASEAN's collective spending on cybersecurity in 2017 amounted to only US 1.9 billion, or 0.06% of the GDP, which accounts for less than half of the global average of 0.13%. So this has prompted most Asian governments to issue various guidelines mandating private and public sectors to upgrade their security infrastructure and enhance their security talent to combat this pervading threat. In Malaysia alone, we do have a lot of initiatives around IT and cybersecurity as well. Now, we all know that business and IT alignment is vital for market impact and growth. While businesses are embracing new emerging technologies to keep up with today's fast-paced competitive world, cybersecurity has become a critical business function. The scale and pace of cybercrimes have also become so sophisticated that it affects organizations, businesses, and individuals and countries at large. With that, I would like to, highlight that the cyber space actually requires a lot of experts. It is a battlefield, like what Vasant mentioned earlier. It's like a cyber war, and it requires the expertise of professionals, irrespective of gender. So even though it's well known in the tech world, it is dominated by men, and women can have a hard time breaking into higher ranking roles within the industry. But whatever the reason for this disparity, what's clear is that the tech companies actually benefit hugely when women enter the picture. On that note, I would like to quote an article from the Forbes magazine dated 10 March 2020. The article is Top 3 Reasons Why We Need More Women in Tech, which is highly relevant to our topic today. One of the reasons is diversity generates more revenue. I think some of the speakers mentioned earlier as well. In this study, the Boston Consulting Group and the Technical University of Munich conducted a study to understand the relationship between diversity in management. The results showed that increasing the diversity of leadership teams leads to more and better innovation and improved financial performance in both developing and developed economies. The study showed that companies with greatest gender diversity, those in which 8 out of 20 managers were female, generated about 34% of their revenues from innovative products and services, and in the most recent 3-year period. The other reason given in this study was that women think differently. I think you will hear this a lot during this conference. In the study, it mentioned that by nature, interacting with diverse team forces individuals to prepare better, to anticipate alternative viewpoints. The presence of women makes individuals anticipate different opinion and perspectives and makes them assume that they will need to work harder to come to a consensus. We can all benefit from that kind of pressure. In the study, they also mentioned the third reason was we need more role models. By celebrating female tech leaders, it will hopefully encourage more girls to pursue their interests in careers in tech, thus increasing the hiring pool diversity. We need to ensure that young girls have strong role models of other successful women in STEM, and that we have a seat at the table so they can engage men on the topic of gender equality. So I think I do not need to say more on this. I will move on to the next slide. So here let's look at some of the factors that explain why women should consider ethical hacking as a career. Firstly, I would like to quote another report by Ernst & Young stating that by 2028, women will control 75% of discretionary consumer spending worldwide. So of course, security concerns like encryption, fraud detection, and biometrics are becoming an important part of these buying decisions. Product designs require a trade-off between security and usability. So when we have more female cybersecurity professionals, they can make better informed decisions about such trade-offs for products that are targeted at female customers. There's also another study that by the International Telecommunication Union that revealed that women more than men are using the internet across all age groups and countries. Other reports also show that there's an overwhelming increase in the number of women falling victim to cyber threats, frauds, and cyber crimes. And this is the part where women can play a role. We already play a role as a protector for families and societies, in general. And in the cyber world, there is definitely a huge need for women to also play that role as a protector for victims of cybercrime. So moving on, I think in the earlier keynote, Vasant mentioned the statistics around women representation around the world. While I do not have recent data on the progress that women have made over the last few years, I'm confident that these numbers will continue to grow. Here at Trainocate Malaysia, I wish to accelerate this growth by partnering with Rocheston. I believe with Rocheston's strategies and vision, we can definitely change these numbers and figures very soon. So I would also like to highlight some of the difficulties faced by women to become ethical hackers. Firstly, women are generally not presented with opportunities in cybersecurity and are unaware of the necessary steps needed towards establishing a career in cybersecurity. Though the current generation of women have more opportunities in education, a career in ethical hacking is usually not a first option. As there's no awareness and guidance or even mentoring. I think sometimes there is mentoring, but the male mentor's view might also be biased, and there is also because there is a lack of female mentors, right? And then there's the other point about the educational programs, where clearly the STEM gap shows that there is a streaming of women and girls towards more arts and social sciences. This needs to be changed, and the change should start from early education. There is also a lack of exposure to IT training and career certification. As a training provider, we train thousands of people annually, but we hardly see 20% of women that walk through our doors. So that actually really shows that there is a huge gap in IT training and certification for women as well. Lastly, I think everyone speaks about the gender bias in terms of climbing the corporate ladder. Though I would like to believe that there has been some progress in some companies. For example, in Trainocate group, I think 80% of the CEOs are female. So I believe there are a lot of opportunities out there for a lot of females to, enter a lot of different tech space and other leadership roles. So moving along, I would like to address some misconceptions, I would say. There is an inherent perception that only technical skills matter in cybersecurity. The reality is that there is more about analyzing all risk factors and the scope of the impact a cybersecurity breach has on a business. The job entails critical thinking, combing through logs, applying patches, and reading security advisories. The other misconception is that higher management roles in cybersecurity are dominated by male IT professionals as they are more qualified. But the reality, as found by a study conducted by ISC Square, is that 52% of women in cybersecurity are better educated and hold postgraduate degrees as opposed to 44% of their men counterparts. Also, leadership positions in cybersecurity are most likely to be held by women due to their organizational skills and attention to detail. There's also another misconception, which is advanced technologies penetrating every sector. Hacking is an ever-evolving high-tech field, and not many women want to be weighted down by heavy technicalities. I think it's mentioned by the speaker earlier, Lopa, that the reality is women leaders, as you, of course, the natural path is you have to learn the technicalities, but as you go on, you go into a management role and it requires different skills. And the fact that women are also advocates of learning and put higher priority on continuous learning, this gives them an edge in the long run. Lastly, one of the other misconception is that women do not want to be associated with black hoodies and the dark web. I think the reality is that the younger generation of women are more vocal and gutsy, and they expect to be treated no differently than men. And I think for some women, maybe the dark hoodie is in fact cool. I don't know, I just think so. So there are some other misconceptions as well. Sometimes hacking is seen as not a very respectable career. This is because there are a lot of bad guys, bad hackers out there, but there needs to be more ethical hackers to counter this. So that's where women can make that difference. Then there's also the misconception about pay scale, where it is perceived that female hackers do not get paid comparatively to men. I choose to believe that, this is not entirely true, because when the female hacker knows her value and has the right skills, I believe many companies out there are willing to snap up talent regardless of gender or pay scale. And then we also have the misconception that women are more suited for non-IT jobs due to gender bias for generations. Culturally, STEM is perceived as a male-dominated field. However, this is starting to change, that we see a shift. In fact, I see this in my daughter's school as well, where the girls sign up for, robotics and coding more than the boys do. So I think there is a shift there as well. One other social perception is that, women hackers, ethical or otherwise. But like I said earlier, I think women these days prefer a challenge. So it's not just about the social perception anymore. So moving along, I think I would like to address, why women still hesitant. I think it's because many women in many different parts of the world still face gender inequalities, which needs to be addressed, though through different initiatives. Quality education, economic resources, and professional opportunities are not uniformly distributed globally as well for some women yet. I think our societies do not always offer equal opportunities for women in employment, leadership, and decision making, and therefore disparities will persist. However, bias is sometimes unconscious, and people may not know your qualifications or capabilities. Hence, women need to speak up for themselves and point out their own qualifications. I think this is very important. When you have the right skills, you need to speak up and you need to point out, otherwise the bias will continue to be there. Sometimes it's really unconscious. So moving along, I think there are a lot of steps that can be taken to bring women into cybersecurity. I think some of these steps were mentioned earlier as well. I think where governments and non-profit organizations and professional associations should work together to build awareness of cybersecurity and the role of women, the role that women can play. I think events and workshops for women to connect with industry leaders and to find mentors are also important, such as this event. I was actually amazed to see such talented and qualified women on the panel of speakers. And there's a lot of opportunity to mentor other younger women. There's also a huge need to encourage professional skills training, such as hacking skills, network analysis, programming languages, as well as simulating sessions on cybersecurity attacks to find potential vulnerabilities. I think this will, by showing real examples, by giving women this training, it can actually make a difference. I think organizations also need to encourage women to participate in seminars and conferences, further their education, explore new possibilities in cybersecurity. Women should also focus on micro-learning. I think with the trend now, with everyone working from home and the availability, the access to online learning, micro-learning is actually quite important, where you can constantly upgrade your knowledge through various different mediums, and it may not cost as much as well. Then there are also other initiatives such as workshops conducted in schools to develop interests, aptitude, and skills in science and technology for children. Finally, I think perhaps the most important is the inclusion of cybersecurity in curriculums in schools to teach young children the basics of how to protect their online identity, safe browsing, and protecting their computers and their family networks from being hacked. I think with these initiatives from young, it will definitely inculcate the same behaviors, as the new generation grows and get into university and work eventually. So out of that takes us to, some may be wondering what are the opportunities for women hackers then. There is actually a huge market for women in the cybersecurity space. I think cybersecurity ventures are increasingly seeking women professionals, not only to diversify their workforce, but also to contribute to a safer and secure cyber world. I think appropriate cyber safety and cyber defense training will inspire the next generation to follow cybersecurity practices to rein in safer cyberspace. Organizations can also offer specific job openings for women in cyber defense, and this will motivate women to pursue a career in this field. They will plug the gender gap while building a robust cybersecurity team. And of course, the result is, innovative and diverse solutions to the cyber problems, right? So moving along, so what does the future hold? I think there are a lot of studies out there. Job opportunities, there are research that shows that by the end of 2021, there will be an estimated of 3.5 million job opportunities in cybersecurity field. While about 48% of women workforce preferred the STEM and other related job opportunities, I think there was a study that showed that in the US, there was just about 14% of women opting for cybersecurity sector. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. The other, possibilities, the equal pay scale. I think a lot of organizations are debunking the myth that women professionals are paid lesser than their male counterparts. Increasing the number of women in the cyber workforce will lead governments to invest in STEM and courses and incentivize other related certification programs for women. Cybersecurity also does not discriminate by gender, religion, or nationality. It provides equal employment to people from various educational backgrounds, social and cultural backgrounds. I think at the end, it boils down to the skills that someone has. As shared by the earlier speaker, I think, Lopa, there are fun and fascinating possibilities in the cyberspace. Though I don't belong to the technical cyberspace, I believe it is highly volatile, evolving and thrill-packed with countless fascinating possibilities. So as women are steadily, and consistently climbing the corporate ladder in cybersecurity, there is a huge space out there for more lady hackers. So yeah, that's about it for my presentation. I hope it has been enlightening to a certain extent, and I hope it will inspire some women to embrace the tech space, especially cybersecurity. While I understand that my viewpoints may be a bit idealistic in nature, it is my sincere hope that we can collectively break the barriers that have impeded with our perception and practices of the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ruby. There's one question from Sonal. May I please ask what are the soft skills basically looked at while you recruit cyber professionals?
I think some of the soft skills are definitely communication skills. I think it is crucial, we see a lot of soft skills demand in the area of communication skills, critical thinking. Women should definitely focus on these two. Leadership skills as well. I think there's a lot of need for women to actually focus on leadership skills.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Hi. So can you hear me? I'm back. Sorry, some technical issues.
No problem.
Okay. So did you ask Ruby that one question that one of our audience members had?
I asked one. There is a lot more, but I'm not able to browse the chat. Yeah.
Will you please tell us how cybersecurity relates to women, essentially? I think that was the question.
Sorry, what's the question, Aditya?
How does cybersecurity relate to women? I think that was the question.
Oh, okay. I think it relates to women in every aspect, right? Because we all use every form of tech there is out there. So in terms of career, I think we cannot run away from the fact that more and more jobs are becoming tech related, and cybersecurity is a niche that has a huge gap. So it definitely relates to women, provided they have the hunger to learn and be in that space.
Okay. And I think a couple of our previous speakers said that most cybersecurity job roles and the requirements have nothing to do with gender. So this is one of the preconceived, I would say, mind blocks that we need to get women to understand and get over before they join anything related to cybersecurity. And cybersecurity doesn't necessarily have to mean, as our keynote speaker said, only ones and zeros in the technical stuff. It's so much more.
That's right. I totally agree. I think that's also the barrier that we are trying to break, because we've been doing IT training for so long and we don't see female. We see some female, but a very small percentage. So there is definitely a need for more awareness. I think the most important thing is the mentoring, the encouraging, such as this event. I think is brilliant. It opens up your mind to see that there are so many women out there who are in the cybersecurity space. I think there needs to be more initiatives to create that awareness.
And you made a very good point about hiring women, just so that you have another perspective of interpreting and talking about products that are meant specifically for women. So thank you so much, Ruby, for that presentation. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Aditya.
Thank you.